Hello, everyone. My name is Luke Koga. Today, I'll please be presenting my research project on how taking a break from social media affects stress levels and emotional well-being. The research problem is that social media has become a constant part of everyday life, especially for young adults. While it offers connection and entertainment, it also introduces new pressure like constant availability, social comparison, and information overload. And it also shapes how individuals' identity, how they communicate with others in this new day and age, their relationships, and their own mental health. With this, my research asks, does taking a break from social media actually reduce stress? And does someone's prior frequency of use change how effective that break is? Because the research has shown that social media can both increase and reduce stress depending on the uh, quantity of usage and patterns one previously displays. Little is known about when people intentionally take a break from social media, so I want to increase the knowledge about this topic. This is important sociologically because social media isn't just technology, it's also a social environment that shapes identity, emotional regulation, and daily interaction. Background and significance. Social media introduced new forms of chronic strain of stress that I want to focus on. Breaks from social media don't just represent stepping away from different platforms, but it also represents the expectations of constant availability, the impact of this, the need for privacy and emotional space. It also connects back to big sociological themes that we have learned in this class, such as looking glass self, the stress model, or the front/backstage. Understanding breaks, not just its use, gives us better insight into this, such as understanding what digital coping is, emotional regulation due to social media, and the inequality that media produces. My first theme is um, social media as a stressor, which shows that everyday social media use can function as a chronic stressor. First, there's constant connectivity and availability pressure. People feel obligated to reply quickly, stay updated, and maintain a presence online. This creates emotional strain and blurs the boundaries between public and private time. A second one is social comparison, which is a major source of stress. Platforms amplify idealized images, achievements, and lifestyles, making users evaluate themselves against these unrealistic standards that they're constantly seeing. And by having this constant amount of likes and seeing this constant engagement, it really makes people feel like get the feeling of FOMO and they're missing out, or that their life is flawed compared to everyone else's because everyone else's is perfect, quote unquote. Third is information overload and emotional burden occurs when users encounter overwhelming amount of news, updates, or distressing content, which is also called the cost of caring, as increased awareness of stressful events that aren't your own will have a negative impact on your own mental well-being. And the social logical significance of this is that it shows that these are structural stressors embodied in our own daily life. And these are all due to digital norms and social pressures. Together, these findings suggest that frequent social media use may heighten stress because the digital environment demands attentiveness, performance, and emotional effort. Another theme I have was how social media shapes emotional strain. And this focused on through how social media increases stress and why breaks may reduce it. Many studies show that stress doesn't just come from social media itself, but it comes from how people experience social media as they experience this pressure to maintain an image, fear of missing out, or difficulty of disengaging. And a key insight is social media creates continuous cognitive overload through constant notifications, endless feeds, and content. It makes it mentally difficult to rest. And these dopamine-driven reinforcement cycles, as one posts, they constantly get a statistical value of how many likes or comments, and just overall, it gives a number to their engagement. And generally, higher higher the number, the better the engagement, which leads to compulsive checking. And this increases one's own anxiety because if they're not constantly online, they will experience more anxiety offline, which heightens their own psychological stress. And through FOMO and hyper awareness, they feel the need to stay updated with others and creates this constant alertness and emotional monitoring one has to perform, which then equals to more chronic psychological strain. Breaks may work because they allow individuals to interrupt that cognitive load, reduce this comparison, and remove themselves from this emotional demands of constant visibility. Through my research, it supports the idea that stepping away, even temporarily, can reset emotional boundaries or lower stress. Another big theme I saw was vulnerable populations and emotional labor. Because through this, I look at different groups that experience higher levels of stress online. Research has shown that women, children, and young adults and marginalized groups often experience disproportionately more amounts of digital stress, including monitoring of others, cyberbullying, and expectations to be emotionally supportive online. And to go more into detail, women are more likely to experience higher emotional sensitivity online compared to men. And the stress comes from this constant approval, digital obligations that they have to face, social obligations they have to face, or just what is expected out of them. While young adults and children are more trying to figure out themselves and develop who they are as a person, it's also, they feel more stressed due to that, which increases um, their higher rate of stress due to identity stress. And then they also, because they are young, they experience higher rates of cyberbullying and FOMO. And the marginalized groups, they more face exposure to discrimination and harassment. And this ties into the concept of emotional labor as the work people do to manage feelings, support others, and maintain social relationships. As on social media, this labor expands because people are exposed to more social demands and emotional content. As it starts to have a heavy toll on emotional health, this consistent self-presentation, as they feel the pressure to be more successful and fit into the norms and look like they're living the best life they could constantly. And while also on top of that, they have to manage different audiences. As in person, you can have friend group A, friend group B, and act a certain way, while on media, you have to have a mix of your friends, coworkers, and family. And with this, people experience anxiety as they have the fear of being misinterpreted. This theme is important because it shows that the impact of social media and the potential the benefit of breaks is not the same for everyone. For my methods, this is my methods, and it's more focused on my research design. I would like to use quantitative survey focusing on college students and young adults since they use social media frequently and are highly affected by digital stress. I would like to recruit participants through campus email lists and social media platforms or different like student groups and classrooms. My study will measure perceived stress, emotional well-being, frequency of social media use, experience taking a social media break. My measure and variables. For my variables, is my independent variable is taking a break from social media, and this would be yes or no. And then my dependent is perceived stress and emotional well-being, while my control variables are gender, age, student status, and platform type. I would like to use validated measures such as the perceived stress scale to track the emotional well-being of the participants. Uh, Also, the frequency of social media use is a big factor into this, such as active versus passive use and daily hours, as can heavily impact the results. Expected findings. Based on the literature and what I expect due to my research, I expect that individuals who take a break from social media report lower stress levels than those who do not. And then heavy social media users would benefit the most from taking this break. And overall emotional well-being will increase for all participants who participate in the break. For example, if these patterns do appear, it would show that if stress scores decrease, even if it's a small percentage among the break takers, it would support my hypothesis. For ethics, my main considerations involve privacy and potential emotional sensitivity. Because I'm asking about stress and emotional well-being, participants might reflect on personal or stressful experiences. So I will keep all responses anonymous, allow participants to skip questions, and also inform them about the purpose of study. So it's very transparent and they don't feel I'm lying to them. It will also have voluntary participation as these are sensitive questions and they can quit anytime. With this, by having this content warning or even being able to skip questions, I feel like I'm keeping their privacy protected, as also no sensitive information will be collected, such as the username, location, or anything else that is very personal to them. My discussion um, is if the research shows that social media breaks reduce stress, I would suggest individuals can reclaim their own agency and fight against social pressures. Or if frequency of use of moderate stress, it highlights how digital culture creates unequal emotional burdens. Sociologically, this connects to theories of identity, emotional labor, and digital culture, shows how deeply everyday technology shapes the stress processes. My limitations include relying on self-reported data, not tracking actual phone use, and focusing only on young adults. So in the future, if I do future research, I could use digital tracking or experimental designs to measure real behavior. Also, a big problem is that my 48-hour study design is very short term and doesn't show me any long-term patterns. And then the breaks represent resistance to digital pressures, and the study aims to deepen understanding of how constant connectivity, digital comparison, and emotional demand shape everyday stress in everyday life. Overall, through this project, I learned how complex digital stress is and how sociology helps us understand not just individual behavior, but larger social pressures embedded in technology.